Being a dungeon master is easy, actually. People typically think becoming a dungeon master requires you to be an epic storyteller, an improv master, a sprawling adventure designer, and a deep world builder all at once. But really, it's about making sense of the 1d4 people in front of you when they try to seduce the dungeon or burn down the dragon. But in less than 15 minutes, I'm going to give you the tools that will remove all the pressures of world building, adventure designing, improvising, and storytelling no matter what rulebook you use that will make running your games effortless and your players coming back for more every week. Or whenever you can align 5 different adults' schedules. The first lie is with world building. Maybe you've been a player in a D&D game, or you've watched dozens of hours of actual plays and want to feel what it's like behind the screen, to control everything the other players interact with. Many new DMs start by building a world, drawing a map, creating deities, history, lore, but that is a trap. Imagine you're planning a dinner date at your house. You really like this girl and you want to impress her, right? So you're gonna make beef Wellington. Like, you're gonna make this beef Wellington so good, Gordon Ramsay's gonna spend the rest of his life telling himself he's an idiot sandwich 6 inches from the mirror good. The months leading up to your date, you've watched every video on beef Wellington. You bought a new set of Tojiro knives and a stainless steel pan your great-grandchildren will still be making payments on. You've spent hours shopping the local markets. You even raised your own cow, sent it through college and took it out back and harvested its beef before its soul even reached Calvana. And on the day of your first session, your dinner date, you stayed up the night before, sharpening your knives, beating the meat, spending up to the minute before she walks through that door, preparing this Wellington like you're defusing a bomb in the middle of brain surgery. She's here. The table is set. Dinner looks perfect. And now you blow her mind. You blow her mind with your beef Wellington. But she picks at it, barely touches it at all. And now you're ticked, pissed even. All that work you did just for her to not even acknowledge it? All she cared about was the salad. And you made that up in like 2 minutes. And as she leaves, mind unblown, you find out she's a vegan. All that effort and all that prep was wasted because your dinner wasn't made with your guest in mind. You made it because you wanted to look impressive. With your heart broken, you reach for your everyday earbuds by Raycon, insert the comfortable fitting bud into your ear, and realize you just reached the sponsor segment, but listen anyway, as a voice says. This video is sponsored by Raycon's everyday earbuds. I have a problem. I suffer from tiny ear hole syndrome. And before the so crazy we got a deficient ear reveal before GTA 6, which leaves me absolutely debilitated when I try to use most earbuds. It's alright though. This is my cross to bear. But Raycon's everyday earbuds cured me of my horrible condition because they actually sit comfortably in my ears when I'm doing everyday tasks like theoretically working out. Lifting these 400-page plus books count, right? Enjoying my read-through of Pathfinder. Or listening to my wife talk about, thanks to Raycon's active noise isolation. With over 32 hours of battery life, multi-port connectivity, and for half the price of other premium audio brands, the everyday earbuds by Raycon have become essential in my everyday life, whether I'm editing videos, still trying to read through Pathfinder, or when my editor starts talking about Yu-Gi-Oh! Again. Fellow deficient masters like you can support the channel and will save even more by using my link in the description. Go to buyraycon.com/deficient to get 20% off the best-selling everyday earbuds. Brought to you by Raycon. So the point I'm trying to make with this whole beef Wellington is when you prep for a game session, no matter if it's for a one-shot or a 10-year campaign, you must first create with your audience in mind. In this case, it's the players. The better you understand your audience, the better you can craft an experience they will talk about for years. And I'm not talking about a surface-level understanding of like, oh, Baron likes playing as fighters, or Val always plays chaotic evil. I'm talking about a level of understanding like, John's about to have his first child. What if I made the reason my bad guy is doing bad guy things is because he's trying to save his pregnant wife, who has an incurable magic disease? Is that weird? Before session 0, where you go over the rules you're using and everyone creates characters, have a session -1, where you and your players either go out for drinks or do something shoulder to shoulder like board games, fishing, or sports ball. It doesn't matter. It just can't be a tabletop role-playing game. The best dungeon masters have players who are their friends first and their D&D players second. Be a friend. Go be their friend. You'll understand your players better beyond the game table, and it will save you from having to post on r/D&D horror stories. So you've got players you don't hate to be around, you're preparing your first session with them in mind, and now what? How do you design an adventure that's interesting? Where do you even begin? Well, in all of the creative spaces, be it art, music, or content creation, there's a classic quote by me that I stole from Picasso. Good artists borrow, great artists steal. A more modern take on this is by Austin Kleon, who said every new idea is just a mashup or a remix of one or more previous ideas. That's what stealing like an artist means. Take what inspires you and add your own personal twist to it. The more sources you steal from, the more you start looking original. But for a dungeon master, I will take this one step further. You're crafting an adventure for 1d6 people sitting around you at the table. Unless you're publishing your adventures for others to buy, you don't have to steal like an artist. You can just steal. Are you the only one in your friend group that has a Crunchyroll subscription? Do you read fiction that's too new to be mainstream or too niche to even have 10 ratings on Goodreads? Does your friend's eyes glaze over when you rant about the level design from Arcane Studios' 2012's hit immersive first-person sim Dishonored? Just me? Well, in that case, I'll just yoink this level and plop it into my D&D then. And if you're like me and need someone to validate that it's okay to steal everything and anything for your personal, private, adult pretend with dice games, you have my blessing, child. All you must do is subscribe, and then you may steal. Steal like you're actually being paid to run these games. So, now we've stolen an adventure for our first game session. But preparing the adventure and running an adventure are two different skill sets. And when you're playing a game in a shared imaginary space, it's easy for players to wander in directions you didn't plan for or even consider to exist. It's easy to get overwhelmed by all the possibilities a player could take when you release them into your game world. But you can eliminate most of this stress by running your games like Freddy Fish, Pajama Sam, or Monkey Island. Alright, let me explain, Zoomers. Back in my day, when the internet had a theme song, I'd spend my free time solving mysteries with Freddy Fish and learning math on Jumpstart Adventures, point-and-click games. On screen, there would be certain fish or furniture or thingamajigs to click on that would give me some information to progress my adventure. So now in my games, whenever I'm describing the inside of a tavern or the next room in a dungeon, I list all the landmarks of clickable interactives within the scene. If a player clicks on one of those landmarks by saying they searched the cabinet or talked to the innkeeper, that's when I reveal the next layer of hidden information that I define with an arrow beside the landmark in my notes. I go into way more detail here, but this formatting keeps the adventure on track because once you realize that you are the camera, you can subtly guide the players towards the content you've crafted for them without having to make something up on the spot because you just let the players run loose where they can go anywhere! But anywhere is only about an inch deep. You're still gonna have to improvise at times though. No prep survives contact with the players. But another lie we wannabe DMs like to believe is we have to be an improv master to run great games. You might see professional improvisers create amazing moments online in their games and think you could never be that creative on the fly. And while a common piece of improv advice is to say yes and ... when your players zig instead of zag, if your improv brain sounds like the internet theme song, you don't have to default to yes and. You can just default to yes. For example, let's say a player asks if there's a library in the city where they could find information about this monster they're quested to slay. You didn't plan for this, but perhaps within those moments your brain is already imagining what the library looks like and you're already detailing this eclectic librarian that's going to give the player a hard time. If that's your immediate improvisational response, great. Go for it. But if you're like me and coming up blank, all you have to say is, yes, you do that. Now what do you do? The and part of yes-anding is where all that creativity has to come in. But just saying yes puts the spotlight back on the player. Now they're the ones that move the game forward instead of you all of the time. But the greatest lie most dungeon masters believe is that the dungeon master must be a storyteller. Just like world building, it's easy to fall into the trap of having this pressure to tailor each player's backstory, designed for a 3-act story arc for the campaign where every session includes a story beat, tailored to make every player have a chance to shine. Sounds like a good game, right? But that kind of game requires a level of time, effort, and responsibility on the dungeon master that only makes sense if it was your full-time job. I'm already role-playing everyone but the player characters, creating an entire world setting, coming up with interesting adventure hooks, and now you're expecting me to manage, monitor, and manipulate story beats, interweave every background character from 5 different player backstories, and try to balance fights like it's Skyrim's adaptive difficulty? I've tried. And every time it's led to way more stress before, during, and after my games, and it's always the reason I would get burned out. Yes, There are lessons from storytelling you can use for your games, just like there are lessons from improv theater and acting classes that can embellish your dungeon mastering. But the reason why being a dungeon master seems like such a difficult and stressful job is because we pile on these responsibilities we think we have to master, when actually, it's just a few simple systems and a couple of shifts in mindset that makes being a dungeon master easy, actually. And what's great is that there's no skill ceiling for being a dungeon master. It's a lifelong practice that I believe not only will make your elf games better, but makes your game of life better as well. And maybe these systems and tools will help you as much as they've helped me over the years. But what matters now is the next step. Find some friends, or make some friends. Pick a game system, doesn't matter what it is, despite my ramblings. And start kinda sucking so you can start getting kinda good. There's only so many videos from me or from some other DM probably named Matt you can watch before you start seeing the same information over and over. But if you want to go deeper down into the DMing rabbit hole, watch this next.